Radio Phoenix presents World News in 5. I am your host, Luis Isaac Friday, July 31, 2026. Good morning, I'm Luis Isaac, and welcome to another edition of World News in 5 on El Radio Phoenix. Today we'll cover the biggest stories from the United States, around the world, a detailed look at Latin America and the Caribbean, business, weather, sports, and finish with today's dumb ass of the day. Let's begin. America. Today, the United States continues monitoring the rapidly evolving conflict involving Iran as lawmakers remain divided over the administration's military response. On Capitol Hill, the Senate narrowly rejected a resolution that would have limited the president's military authority regarding Iran. The close vote highlights growing concern from both political parties about the possibility of a prolonged regional conflict. Meanwhile, financial markets remain cautious as investors react to geopolitical uncertainty and its impact on energy prices. Analysts warn that higher oil prices could continue fueling inflation while increasing transportation and manufacturing costs across the country. Federal agencies are also monitoring hurricane activity as the Atlantic season begins to enter its traditionally more active phase. Emergency officials are encouraging residents along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts to review hurricane preparedness plans before peak season arrives. World Watch international attention remains focused on the Middle East, where diplomatic efforts continue alongside ongoing military operations. European leaders continue calling for restraint, while humanitarian organizations warn that any expansion of the conflict could affect global food supplies, shipping routes, and energy markets. Meanwhile, climate experts are warning that another exceptionally strong El Niño is becoming increasingly likely later this year, raising concerns about flooding, drought, and agricultural disruption across several continents. Apatin, America, and the Caribbean now. Here's your comprehensive report from across Latin America and the Caribbean. Mexico continues battling a record influx of sargassum seaweed along its Caribbean coastline. Tourism officials are increasing cleanup operations as the massive seaweed blooms threaten beaches and marine ecosystems throughout Quintana Roo, including Cancun and Playa del Carmen. Authorities are also continuing efforts to combat organized crime while maintaining strong trade and security cooperation with the United States. Central America. Several Central American nations are preparing for the possibility of an unusually strong El Niño later this year. Experts say Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua could face prolonged drought conditions affecting agriculture, food production, and drinking water supplies if current forecasts materialize. Cuba continues facing significant electricity shortages, rolling blackouts, and water supply challenges. Residents across the island report that extended power outages are making daily life increasingly difficult, while businesses continue struggling with fuel shortages and unreliable electrical service. Haiti. The humanitarian situation in Haiti remains extremely fragile. International organizations continue urging greater support as gang violence limits access to health care, education, food distribution, and humanitarian assistance in many communities. Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic continues reporting strong tourism numbers, with hotel occupancy and international arrivals remaining among the strongest in the Caribbean. Officials are also reviewing hurricane preparedness plans as peak tropical activity approaches. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's emergency management officials are encouraging residents to finalize hurricane preparedness kits, while utility crews continue strengthening portions of the island's electrical infrastructure ahead of the busiest months of hurricane season. Jamaica and the Bahamas. Both Jamaica and the Bahamas continue monitoring tropical weather across the Atlantic while enjoying another busy tourism season. Emergency agencies say shelters and evacuation plans remain ready should tropical systems develop. Venezuela recovery continues following June's devastating earthquakes. Thousands of families remain displaced as reconstruction efforts continue. International agencies estimate damages reaching into the tens of billions of dollars, making it one of Venezuela's costliest natural disasters in decades. Guyana authorities continue investigating last week's deadly ferry disaster while families await additional answers. Meanwhile, Guyana's rapidly expanding oil industry continues making it one of the fastest growing economies in the Western Hemisphere. Colombia security remains a major priority as Colombian authorities continue operations against organized criminal groups while expanding economic investment and infrastructure projects. Ecuador continues strengthening security around major ports as authorities work to reduce international drug trafficking and organized crime. Peru officially welcomed President Keiko Fujimori into office this week. The new administration says economic growth, public security, mining investment, and reducing inflation will be among its highest priorities as it begins its term. Brazil's political campaign continues intensifying ahead of October's presidential election. Diplomatic tensions with Washington also increased after Brazil delayed approval of President Trump's nominee for U.S. ambassador, adding another challenge to relations between the two countries. Argentina relations between Argentina and Brazil remain strained after another exchange of political criticism between leaders from both countries during campaign events this week. Money and markets oil prices remain volatile as traders watch geopolitical developments closely. Investors are also preparing for additional inflation and employment reports that could influence future Federal Reserve decisions. Agricultural experts warn that a powerful El Niño could affect crop production across Latin America, placing additional pressure on global food prices later this year. Weather Watch forecasters continue monitoring tropical development across the Atlantic Basin as hurricane season becomes increasingly active. Across Latin America, meteorologists are warning governments to prepare now for the possibility of one of the strongest El Niño events in decades, with flooding expected in parts of Peru and Chile, while drought threatens Central America's dry corridor. Sports World Major League Baseball returns today with another full schedule as teams continue their push toward the postseason. Football clubs across Europe continue preseason tours ahead of the new season, while fans across the Americas are already looking forward to the return of the NFL later this summer. Dumbass of the day. Today's dumbass of the day goes to the driver who thought using cruise control meant it was perfectly acceptable to eat breakfast, watch videos, and steer with one finger during morning traffic. Here's a reminder. Cruise control drives the speed. It does not drive the car. Stay alert, keep your eyes on the road, and arrive safely. Those are today's top stories. I'm Luis Isaac, and you've been watching World News in 5 on El Radio Phoenix. If you enjoyed today's program, like this video, leave us a comment, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on notifications for daily news, music, comedy, and original programming. Thank you for joining us. Stay informed, think critically, take care of one another. And remember, the world changes every day, but the facts still matter.